Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number LB4310C-450-652. This is a 4.5 by 4.5 single acting spring hinge, full mortise, contract grade, lube bearing, steel base, satin chrome plated. So let's dissect all of that. First of all, the LB stands for lube bearing. It's a maintenance-free, concealed sort of bearing construction specific to Bommer, proprietary Bommer LB concealed bearing sort of nomenclature and design. 4310 means that this 4310C means that it is a contract grade, meaning that the leaf thickness is 134 thousandths, which is considered standard weight. Typical common sort of hinge for commercial use. It is a square corner, template pattern on the screw holes. Okay, we'll talk about that more in a moment. And a absolute standard sort of spring hinge. This is like getting French fries at a hot dog stand. It's that common, this sort of spring hinge. The 450 means that this is a 4.5 inch tall by 4.5 inch wide hinge. The 652 means two things. It means both steel base and it means satin chrome. So it's a satin chrome plating on a steel base hinge. Now that link below this video to the template is what it's called. Shows everything important dimensionally about the hinge other than what we've already covered, specifically the location of the screw holes. And speaking of screw holes, you will get screws in a complementary finish. For sure, you'll get all metal screws and half wood screws, but this package has 8 of each, so you're covered. You'll get one package of screws per hinge. If you're not sure if you have the hole pattern that this hinge is compatible with, just refer to that template. This is called an ANSI. This is called template, in the sense that the word template is used to describe a specific dimensional relationship to the word template and where these holes are provided for this 4.5 inch hinge. It is the standard. If you have a hollow metal frame made in the last few decades, it will certainly be this hinge. Solid core wood door, fire rated wood door, hollow metal door, this hinge is probably going to be it. Any questions on that template, feel free to reach out to us, but we'll move on at this point. Being a spring hinge, you're going to use this hinge in generally an application whereby you need the door to be self-closing behind you, meaning that the door is fire rated or draft control or smoke control or a combination, meaning code requires the door to be self-closing. You also might just have an 1 3/4 thick door on the attached garage in your house and you want the door to close behind you, and this would be a great answer for that as well. There is a guideline below this video in terms of how many spring hinges to use. Dealing with doors generally up to 3 foot by 7 foot, you're going to have 2 spring hinges up to a 115-pound door used with a standard hinge. And then if you've got a door that's especially heavy, and you could, if you had a gypsum-filled, a particular brand of fire-rated wood door that is known, a Georgia Pacific manufactured core, those are heavier than 115 pounds. You might want to opt for 3 spring hinges in that sort of application. I'm a fan of all spring hinges, not for the obvious reason, but because primarily I have had greater success when I've got more spring hinge on reserve, more spring stored energy on reserve than less. And if you do go with 2, and you might think you need 1, you might have a hollow core door, and really 1 would close it. But you'll find greater success when you've got more than what is absolutely required. And if you are doing that, you can absolutely mix and match with a standard hinge because the axis of pivoting is compatible. You'd want to use a ball bearing hinge in that case if you're mixing and matching. But you can. Standard, like a Bommer BB5000 hinge is going to work perfectly with this. So the reasoning to have more spring power is you've got spring hinges on a door. You're going to open the door, and the door is going to start from here and need to get moving. And get moving to the point where it can still close but also latch. overcome all the air pressure that it encounters, overcome the weight of the door from a standstill. and actually a negative energy opening. Okay, it has to stop the door and then start it back closed. But it also has to overcome the friction of the latch when the latch bolt strikes the strike plate, getting it closed. So if it's a fire door, it needs to be both self-closing, but it has to latch as well. And your spring hinge needs to be able to do that. I liken it to a tugboat. They don't go very fast, but they can pull a lot of weight. And when you have reserve torque, so to speak, and additional spring hinges, you'll find that you can share that load across those spring hinges better so that you can set the tension not to be so aggressive to get the door to slam and then sometimes not work properly. But you can control the door a little bit better and still have enough reserve spring power the last 10 degrees to get it to relatively gently close and latch. I'm not a fan of spring hinges for 100+ pound doors. I think they should be hydraulically controlled with surface closers or overhead closers or whatever the case might be. However, spring hinges have a big place in modern building architecture. Condo buildings, the stairwell doors are very commonly going to have spring hinges. The doors to the units themselves will commonly, and very much more commonly, will have spring hinges as well. And they really fit a need. Now, I opt towards more spring hinges. You'll find a more predictable, reliable sort of behavior. But also, you'll find, moving on to the point where we will talk about how to set the tension, if the hinges come in a box, the instructions will likely be on the back of the box. If they don't, no worries. There's a link below this video to the installation instructions. Every order of hinge or hinges that you get will have a tension rod, and every hinge that you order will have a tension pin. This order happens to have 2 hinges, so there's 2 pins. When you install this hinge, you'll do so with the tension collar pointed up. You can see there's only one of those collars. Point that towards the top of the door. Insert your tension rod into one of the holes and turn it clockwise. And as you do so, you'll reveal new additional holes into which you will insert one of those tension pins. Up to 3 holes maximum is really what Bommer is looking for in terms of setting the tension. And if you're doing 2 spring hinges and 1 regular hinge, always top and middle, or top for sure. Top and middle if there's 2, top if there's 1. Some people think the bottom location, it's just wrong. My experience tells me that that is wrong. Top and middle or top only, or all 3 obviously. So, and it's non-handed by the way. Left-hand doors, right-hand doors are going to work. So when you insert that tension collar, tension rod and turn it clockwise, about 3 holes, and you'll have it. And then you can share that load equally amongst your spring hinges and get a proper, nice, predictable amount of operation from it. This hinge is available in all of the common finishes: chromes, bronzes, brasses, prime coats, variants of those, nickels, polished satins, everything, zinc, black japanned. If it's a typical architectural finish, Bommer can certainly do it, and they can do pretty much any finish I've ever asked them to do as well. You're going to like this hinge a lot. It's predictable, it's reliable. It's one of their flagship items. The last thing I'd like to point out to you is the Bommer logo. It says right above it, Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. If you have any questions on the Bommer number LB4310C-450-652 or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.